The evening air was cold, and the delivery boy's stomach was empty. He had worked since morning, riding from street to street, house to house, delivering food to strangers who never even looked at his face. His uniform was old, his shoes had holes, and his pockets carried almost nothing, only a few coins that were not enough to buy a proper meal. He had not eaten since yesterday. His body was weak, but his heart was still strong. In the small box on his cycle, there was one simple meal that he had saved for himself. It was not much, just some rice and bread. But for him, it meant the world. That food was the only thing that could give him energy to keep working through the night. As he parked his cycle near a quiet street corner, ready to finally eat, he noticed someone sitting on the ground. It was an old man, with a tired face and eyes that showed hunger. His clothes were torn, his hands were shaking, and his voice was almost a whisper. "Son, do you have something to eat?" the old man asked, his eyes fixed on the small food box in the boy's hand. The delivery boy froze. His stomach growled. His heart beat faster. For a moment, he looked at the food and then at the old man. That little meal was all he had, and without it, he would have nothing. But then he saw the old man's eyes filled with pain, eyes that carried the weight of loneliness, eyes that had not seen kindness in a long time. The boy's mind was full of thoughts. If I give him my food, I will stay hungry again. How will I work? How will I survive? But if I keep the food, this old man may go to sleep on an empty stomach tonight. Can I really watch him suffer like this? He looked at his thin hands, his tired legs, and then at the old man again. Slowly, he opened the box. The smell of food rose in the air. The old man's face lit up with hope. The boy took a deep breath. He sat down next to the old man and pushed the box towards him. "Here, uncle," he said softly, forcing a small smile. "You need this more than I do." The old man's hands trembled as he accepted the box. Tears filled his eyes. "God bless you, my son," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. The boy watched as the man ate the food slowly, like it was the most precious gift he had ever received. Every bite seemed to give him strength. The boy felt a strange warmth in his heart. His stomach was still empty, but his soul felt full. He thought to himself, maybe kindness is food for the heart. Maybe this is more important than filling my own stomach. But at the same time, a quiet fear grew inside him. What if I collapse from hunger later? What if I cannot finish my work? What if I lose my job? He pushed the thoughts away, trying to focus on the old man's smile. As they sat together on that lonely street, the boy realized something important. Sometimes life gives us a choice between survival and kindness. And even though survival is hard, kindness is what makes us truly human. The old man finished the meal and folded his hands in gratitude. "You will never be forgotten," he said. "The world may not see what you did, but the heavens always do." The boy nodded quietly, trying not to show his weakness. He was hungry, yes. His body was shaking, yes. But in that moment, he felt stronger than ever. What he didn't know was that his small act of kindness was not invisible. From a distance, someone had been watching everything. A man in a car had seen how a hungry boy gave away his only food. And that man was no ordinary person. The delivery boy stood up, ready to continue his work. His stomach was still empty, but his heart was filled with courage. He got back on his cycle, not knowing that his life had already begun to change. Because sometimes, one choice, one simple act of kindness, can open doors that were locked for years. And his choice tonight was about to lead him into a future he could never imagine. The night was silent, and the streets were almost empty. The delivery boy parked his old bicycle near the roadside and took a deep breath. His hands were tired, his back was sore, and his stomach was crying for food. All day he had been riding from house to house, delivering meals to families who ate happily inside their warm homes. But he himself had eaten nothing. In the small food box tied to his bicycle, there was only one meal. It was not from the restaurant. It was something he had saved for himself, a little rice, some bread, and a small piece of vegetable. It was not enough to fill him, but it was enough to keep him standing. That food was his hope for the night. He sat on the pavement and opened the box slowly. The smell of food touched his nose, and for a moment, his hunger grew stronger. He held the bread carefully, ready to take the first bite. But then he heard a weak voice. "Son, please, do you have something to eat?" He turned his head. Not far from him sat an old man, thin and tired, with grey hair and a wrinkled face. His clothes were torn, and his body looked weak, as if he had not eaten for many days. His eyes were fixed on the food in the boy's hands, eyes full of hunger and hope. The delivery boy froze. His heart started beating faster. His stomach growled again. He looked at the old man. Then he looked at the food. His mind was full of thoughts. If I give him this food, what will I eat tonight? I have no money to buy more. I have to work for many more hours. How will I stay strong? But, if I don't give him food, he might sleep hungry again. He looks so weak, can I really ignore him? The boy's hands shook as he thought. He could feel the battle inside his heart. Hunger pulled him one way, kindness pulled him the other. The old man's voice broke the silence again. Just a little, son. Anything you can give me. I have not eaten in 2 days. The boy's eyes filled with tears. Slowly, he closed the food box, took a deep breath, and walked towards the old man. He sat beside him on the cold ground. Uncle, he said softly, placing the box in front of him, please eat. You need this more than I do. The old man's hands trembled as he reached for the food. His eyes filled with water. May God bless you, he whispered. His voice was so soft that it was almost lost in the night air. He started eating slowly, each bite like gold to him. The boy watched in silence. His stomach was still empty, and his body still weak, but a strange warmth filled his heart. For a moment, he forgot his own hunger. He felt peace. He felt human. But deep inside, fear still lived. What if I faint from hunger later? What if I cannot finish my work? What if the restaurant fires me for being too slow? He pushed these thoughts away and focused on the old man's smile. The old man finished the meal carefully, not leaving a single grain behind. He closed the box and folded his hands in gratitude. You will never be forgotten, he said. The world may not see what you did tonight, but God always sees. The boy lowered his head. He didn't want thanks. He only wanted to know that the old man would sleep with a full stomach tonight. He stood up, weak but proud, and walked back to his bicycle. He had no food left for himself, but he carried something even stronger, faith in kindness. What he did not know was that his act of kindness was not invisible. From across the street, inside a parked car, someone had been watching. A man with sharp eyes, dressed simply, had seen everything. He had seen the boy give away his only meal. He had seen the hunger in the boy's body and the kindness in his heart. And that man was no ordinary person. The delivery boy rode away into the night, unaware that his life was about to change forever. Because sometimes, the smallest choice, the hardest sacrifice, becomes the turning point of a whole life. The delivery boy pedaled slowly through the streets after giving away his only meal. His stomach was empty, but his heart carried a strange strength. The night was quiet except for the sound of his bicycle chain and the distant noise of traffic. He did not know that behind him, hidden in the shadows, a man had been watching everything. That man was sitting inside a black luxury car, its headlights off, parked quietly at the corner of the street. He was dressed in simple clothes, plain shirt, old jacket, nothing that showed his true identity. His eyes followed the boy as he rode away. This man was no ordinary customer. He was a millionaire. His name was known in the business world, but on the streets, dressed like this, no one could recognize him. He often liked to see life outside his big mansion, to understand how ordinary people lived. Tonight, he had witnessed something he could not forget, a hungry delivery boy giving away his last meal to a starving stranger. The millionaire leaned back in his seat. His mind was filled with thoughts. Why would a boy who has nothing give away the only food he has? What kind of heart chooses kindness over survival? He smiled softly. There was sadness in his smile. He had seen many rich men throw food away without a thought. But this poor boy, who had nothing, gave everything. The driver of the car, an older man who had served him for years, turned and asked, "Sir, shall we go home?" The millionaire shook his head. "No. Follow that boy. I want to see where he works." The car moved slowly, keeping a distance, as the boy rode his bicycle through the busy streets again. He stopped outside a small restaurant, a place with a broken signboard, dim lights, and tired workers. It was clear that this was not a fancy place. It was just a small shop that survived on hard work and simple customers. The boy carried his delivery bag inside. His body was weak, but his face showed no complaint. He greeted the owner politely, took the next order slip, and got ready to ride again. From his car window, the millionaire watched carefully. Even when he is tired and hungry, he shows respect. Even when life is cruel, he still smiles. The millionaire thought deeply. He wanted to know more about this boy, his struggles, his dreams, his character. But he could not just walk up and ask. He wanted to test him. "Prepare an order from this restaurant," the millionaire told his driver. "A big one. And deliver it to my table. I want him to bring it." The driver nodded and stepped out, placing the order inside the restaurant. Within minutes, the delivery boy was handed a heavy bag. He adjusted it on his bicycle and rode towards the address given, the very hotel where the millionaire was waiting. When the boy arrived, he was surprised. The address was not a small home or a flat like usual. It was a grand hotel with shining glass doors, golden lights, and a red carpet. He felt nervous. Places like this were not for people like him. Still, he walked inside carefully. The guards looked at him with sharp eyes, but when they saw the delivery bag, they let him pass. He reached the table where the millionaire sat, still dressed like an ordinary man. The boy placed the food on the table and said politely, "Sir, your order." The millionaire looked up slowly, his eyes meeting the boy's. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, in a firm voice, he replied, "Thank you. Please wait here." The boy nodded, unsure of what was happening. Normally, customers just took the food and left. But this man's eyes were different, serious, searching, almost emotional. The millionaire opened the bag, checked the food, and then, without smiling, began to complain. "The rice is cold. The bread is not soft. The service is slow. Is this how your restaurant treats customers?" The boy's heart sank. He had worked hard to bring the order quickly. He wanted to explain, but he stopped himself. Instead, he lowered his head respectfully and said, "I am sorry, sir. I will try better next time." The millionaire watched him carefully. He had expected anger, excuses, maybe even rudeness. But the boy gave none of that. He accepted the complaint with humility. The millionaire pushed further. "Do you think this food is worth the money I paid?" The boy swallowed his pain and answered softly, "Sir, I understand your concern. I only deliver what the kitchen gives me. But I will tell them to improve. You deserve the best." Silence fell between them. The millionaire studied the boy's tired face, his empty eyes, and his calm voice. He saw no pride, no arrogance, only patience and respect. Inside, the millionaire's heart shook. "Even when I test him, he stays humble. Even when he is broken, he chooses dignity." The boy stood quietly, waiting for payment. His legs were weak, his stomach was empty, but his spirit was strong. The millionaire leaned back in his chair, a storm of emotions rising inside him. This boy was not just another worker. He was someone special. Someone who deserved more. But the millionaire was not ready to reveal the truth yet. He wanted to see how much strength this boy carried in his heart. And so, he planned one more test, something even harder than this. The boy picked up his empty bag and prepared to leave. He bowed politely and whispered, "Thank you, sir." Then he turned towards the exit, unaware that his life was walking straight into destiny. Because the man sitting at the table was not just a customer. He was the key to a future the boy could never imagine. The delivery boy walked out of the grand hotel slowly, holding his empty bag. His legs were tired, his stomach empty, but his mind calm. He had faced another rude customer, and just like always, he had answered with respect. To him, this was normal. He believed life was already hard enough. Why add more anger? But what he didn't know was that this rude customer was not ordinary. The man who complained was a millionaire in disguise. And that man was not finished yet. He wanted to test the boy again, to see if his kindness was real or just a show. The millionaire sat silently at his table, watching the boy leave. His driver leaned closer and asked, "Sir, why didn't you tell him who you are?" The millionaire smiled faintly. "Not yet. First, I must see how far his patience can go. Anyone can act kind once. But real kindness stays even when life keeps testing you." That night, the millionaire placed another big order from the same restaurant. Once again, the delivery boy was the one who had to bring it. This time, the boy's body felt even weaker. He had not eaten since yesterday, and his head was light. But still, he tied the heavy bag to his bicycle and pedaled through the cold night. His lips were dry, his hands shaking, but he did not stop. He had promised himself that he would never quit, no matter how hard it became. When he reached the hotel again, the millionaire was waiting. He looked at the boy with sharp eyes, ready for the second test. The boy placed the food on the table. "Here is your order, sir." The millionaire opened the box and frowned. This food looks bad again. Don't you people care about quality? Or do you think poor delivery boys like you can fool rich customers? The words cut deep into the boy's heart. For a moment, his eyes filled with pain. No one had ever called him that way before. But he took a deep breath and lowered his head. "I am sorry, sir," he said softly. "I am only the delivery boy. But I will tell my manager. Please don't be upset. I will make sure they improve." The millionaire leaned forward. "And what if I complain to your boss? What if you lose your job because of this?" The boy froze. His job was the only thing keeping him alive. If he lost it, he would have nothing. But instead of arguing, he answered calmly, "If that is what you decide, sir, I will accept it. But please know, I always try my best." The millionaire's heart shook again. He had expected excuses, maybe even anger. But this boy, he only showed respect. Even when threatened, he stayed humble. The test continued. The millionaire asked the boy to bring water, then asked him to clean the table, even though it was not his job. The boy obeyed quietly, without complaint. He wiped the table, poured the water, and stood with folded hands. Finally, the millionaire gave him a small note as a tip. But it was so little that it could not even buy bread. The boy looked at the money, hesitated, but then smiled softly. "Thank you, sir. This means a lot." The millionaire was speechless for a moment. Even now, he is grateful. Even now, he doesn't complain. The boy turned to leave, but his legs almost gave up. He felt dizzy from hunger. He leaned on his bicycle outside the hotel, trying to catch his breath. His stomach twisted in pain, but he whispered to himself, "I must be strong. Just a few more deliveries tonight. I cannot quit." From the hotel window, the millionaire watched. His eyes softened. This boy had passed every test so far. He had given food to a stranger, faced insults with respect, obeyed extra tasks without complaint, and accepted even the smallest tip with gratitude. But the millionaire wanted to be completely sure. He decided to test him one last time, in a way that would reveal his true character completely. "Tomorrow," he told his driver, "we will order again. But this time, the test will be harder. I need to know if his kindness is only on the surface, or if it truly lives inside his soul." The driver nodded. "Sir, don't you think you've tested him enough? The boy is already suffering." The millionaire's voice was quiet. "I know. But sometimes, life tests us again and again. If he can survive this final test, then I will show him who I really am." Outside, the delivery boy rode away slowly into the night, not knowing that destiny was shaping his future. He thought he had just faced another difficult customer. He had no idea that his patience was being measured, his kindness was being tested, and his life was about to change forever. Because the next test would not only challenge his patience, it would test his very heart. The next day, the sun rose slowly over the city. The streets filled with people rushing to their jobs, but the delivery boy's morning began the same as always, with hunger. He had slept with an empty stomach again, his body weak but his willpower strong. He put on his faded uniform, climbed onto his old bicycle, and rode back to the restaurant. His boss handed him a stack of orders without even looking at him. The boy nodded silently, tied the heavy bag to his back, and began another long day. By evening, his body was almost giving up. His stomach burned, and his legs shook with every push on the pedals. Still, he kept going. He had learned to survive on little food and endless hope. And once again, destiny brought him to the same grand hotel. The address on the slip was the same. The customer was the same. The millionaire was waiting. This time, the order was even bigger, several dishes, enough to feed a whole family. The boy carried the heavy bag into the shining hotel lobby, his steps slow but steady. He reached the table where the millionaire sat. As always, the man looked calm, almost unreadable. The boy placed the food on the table and said politely, "Here is your order, sir." The millionaire opened the boxes slowly. The rich aroma filled the air, but he did not touch the food. Instead, he looked at the boy and asked, "Tell me, why do you work so hard? You look tired, hungry, yet you never complain. Why?" The boy hesitated. No customer had ever asked him this before. He lowered his eyes and answered quietly, "Because I have no choice, sir. My family depends on me. If I stop, they will starve. If I complain, nothing will change. So I just keep working." The millionaire leaned forward. "And yesterday, I saw you give away your food. You were hungry, yet you gave it to a stranger. Why? The boy's heart skipped. He didn't know that anyone had seen him that night. He looked up in surprise, his eyes wide. You saw that? The millionaire nodded. The boy swallowed hard. His voice trembled as he spoke. Because I know how it feels to be hungry. I know the pain of having nothing. When I saw that old man, I saw myself. I could not eat while he was suffering. Maybe I went hungry again, but at least he slept with a full stomach. For a moment, silence filled the table. The millionaire's eyes softened. He felt something break inside his chest. You gave him everything you had, the millionaire said slowly, even when you had nothing for yourself. And still, you stand here with respect in your voice and honesty in your heart. Do you realize how rare that is? The boy lowered his head, embarrassed. I only did what felt right, sir. Nothing special. The millionaire's hands trembled slightly as he pushed the food aside. Then, in a voice filled with emotion, he said, It is special. More special than you know. The boy looked confused. Why was this man speaking like this? He had never seen a customer so serious before. And then it happened, the moment that would change everything. The millionaire took off his simple jacket. Underneath was a watch that alone cost more than the boy's entire life earnings. His voice grew firm as he said, I am not just a regular customer. I am one of the owners of this hotel. I am a millionaire. The boy froze. His lips parted in shock. His mind refused to believe what he had just heard. The millionaire continued, I tested you. I wanted to see who you really are. I complained about the food, I treated you rudely, I gave you the smallest tip, yet you never lost your respect, never lost your kindness. And before that, I saw you give your only food to a starving man. The boy's eyes filled with tears. His voice was barely a whisper. You tested me. Yes, the millionaire said softly. And you passed every test. You proved that real kindness exists, even in the poorest heart. You showed me something money can never buy, humanity. The boy felt weak, his legs shaking, but not from hunger this time. From shock. From disbelief. The millionaire stood and placed a strong hand on the boy's shoulder. From this day, you will never ride a bicycle in hunger again. I will make sure of it. The boy's tears spilled over. He covered his face with his hands. He could not believe that his small act of kindness, something he thought no one had noticed, had brought him to this moment. The millionaire's voice grew warm. You gave when you had nothing. Now it is my turn to give. You are not just a delivery boy anymore. You are part of my family now. The boy's heart raced. His life, which had been full of hunger and pain, was suddenly filled with light. He looked at the millionaire with trembling lips. Thank you, sir. I don't know how to thank you enough. The millionaire smiled. Live with the same kindness you have always shown. That will be thanks enough. The hotel lights sparkled above them. The boy stood there, still in his faded uniform, but everything about his life had changed. And yet, the story was not over. Because sometimes, even when the truth is revealed, the greatest reward is still waiting. The delivery boy stood frozen in the shining hotel lobby. His heart pounded in his chest, his eyes still wet with tears. A few minutes ago, he was just another poor worker, carrying food from one place to another. And now, the man before him, a millionaire, was telling him that his life was about to change. The boy could not believe it. His lips trembled as he whispered, Sir, I don't deserve this. I am just a poor delivery boy. The millionaire smiled gently and placed a hand on his shoulder. No. You are much more than that. You are proof that kindness lives in the hearts of the poor. You gave your only food to a stranger. You respected me even when I insulted you. You stayed humble when I tested you. That is not ordinary. That is rare. The boy lowered his head, his tears falling onto the marble floor. For years, life had only given him pain, hunger, and rejection. And now, for the first time, someone was calling him special. The millionaire called his driver and said firmly, Bring my papers. Within minutes, the driver returned with a folder. The millionaire opened it and began writing something. The boy stood silently, confused. Then the millionaire looked up. From today, you are no longer a delivery boy. I am giving you a full-time job in my company. A stable salary, a safe home, and enough food for your family. You will never ride hungry again. The boy's eyes widened. He could not speak. His voice was trapped in his throat. The millionaire continued, his tone even softer now. I also want you to study. You are young, and you deserve education. I will pay for your classes, your books, everything. One day, you will not just work for me, you will stand beside me as a man of success. At these words, the boy fell to his knees. His hands covered his face as sobs broke from his chest. All the nights of hunger, all the days of struggle, all the tears of hopelessness, everything came rushing out at once. Sir, why me? He whispered between tears. So many others are poor. Why me? The millionaire knelt down beside him. Because you chose kindness when life gave you nothing. You showed me the meaning of humanity. Riches mean nothing without a good heart. And you, my son, have the richest heart I have ever seen. The boy hugged the millionaire's hands tightly, unable to let go. His heart felt lighter than ever before. For the first time in his life, he felt safe. As the two of them stood together, the restaurant manager who had treated the boy harshly walked in. He was shocked to see the delivery boy standing with the millionaire. The millionaire looked at him sharply. Do you know who this boy is? The manager stammered. He is just our delivery boy, sir. The millionaire's voice rose with power. No. From today, he is under my protection. He is part of my family. And if I ever hear that he was treated without respect again, you will answer to me. The manager's face turned pale. He nodded quickly, bowing his head. The boy, who had always been ignored and shouted at, now stood taller than anyone else in the room. That night, the boy was taken to the millionaire's house. For the first time, he sat at a dining table full of food. His stomach, which had known only hunger, was finally full. His eyes filled with tears again as he whispered a silent prayer of thanks. The millionaire watched him with a smile. Eat, my boy. You have earned every bite. The boy ate slowly, almost afraid it was a dream that would vanish. But with every bite, he realized, it was real. His life had changed forever. Days turned into weeks, and the boy's world transformed. He no longer rode his bicycle in the cold night. He wore clean clothes, attended classes, and worked in the millionaire's office. Yet, through it all, he never forgot where he came from. He still shared food with the hungry, still greeted everyone with respect, still lived with kindness. Because he knew that kindness was the key that had opened the door to his new life. And the millionaire. He often told people, I found the richest boy in the poorest clothes. He reminded me that true wealth is not in money, it is in the heart. The boy's story spread, inspiring many. People who heard it learned that even the smallest act of kindness can return as the greatest blessing. And so, the hungry delivery boy who once had nothing became a man with everything, not because of luck, not because of money, but because of the choice he made on a lonely street one night. The choice to share his food. The choice to be kind. And that one choice had given him the greatest reward of all, a new life.